Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once again to the Suppression Room in Blackwing Lair. This is Pendragon, and we're going to explain what to do here. Alright, the Suppression Room is a gauntlet that leads through this room, up the stairs, and then another one of these rooms, all the way up to the boss that's over here. It's the third boss, the Bloodlord. So, you need to navigate this area, all the way up there, and kill the boss instantly, or you have to do all of this again. So it's very important that you know what to do here. In the Suppression Room, there are three different types of mobs. You have these warlocks, or well, taskmasters, these orcs. They do AoE healing, and they do some decent single target damage. So make sure you assign a tank to each one, so that there's no random melee DPS getting destroyed. You have the hatchers. They do AoE damage, mainly a flame strike. They cast a flame strike on their main targets. What you want to do as a main tank is stand away from the range, get it cast here, and then just cleave it, or just burn the mob down. So once you get to the Suppression Room, what you should do is just let a hunter start pulling all these mobs one by one, so you clear them here. They have like a 10 to 15 minute respawn timer, all these elites. So if you kill them here before you start navigating this area, it's much easier. And why do you want to kill them here? That's because there are these traps. And these traps, I'll show what happens when I get close. These traps give a debuff which basically reduces your movement speed, your casting time, your attack speed. It basically turns you into a wet noodle in terms of DPS, healing, and movement. So you don't want this to happen to you. So rogues in stealth can get close to these traps. They can also be out of stealth while disarming them, but if they're in stealth they don't get aggro, and obviously they don't get the debuff. They can disarm these traps. And what you want to do is you clear an elite, a couple of elites, and you clear the Dranglings, the rogues can disarm it, and then you can walk further, pull some more. And once you have all the elites down and all the traps down, you start moving as a whole raid together along this path, and you start making your way towards the stairs. What you want to do preferably is you have these traps down. In retail you can just click them as every class. In Classic you will need a rogue. You have your main tank just aggro all these whelps. Obviously these hatches will be dead then. All these traps will be down, so you can just move very fast. You move as far as you can, and you gather them all up. Then you say like, okay, just AoE them down. These Dragonlings are immune to magic, depending on which color they are. So if they're green or blue, they're immune to frost, etc. So keep that in mind. Generally, they're not immune to arcane, so arcane explosion is pretty nice here. And what you do is if you have like whelps destroyed, the traps down, you can go to a corner, you can get out of combat very short time and drink if needed to get your mana back, which is pretty nice. These whelps, however, respawn every 15 to 20 seconds, so that's why you have to keep moving. So move as fast as you can towards the staircase. But obviously all these elites should be dead already before you get here. Unless you're super slow at killing elites, then you may just want to start going and kill them while you're here, but it's just way less messy if they're dead already. Just pressing freedom myself. Okay. So you get... Let's clear these. So you get to this staircase area, and in this staircase area, part of these patrols over here, there will never be any elites. So if these are here, you just kill them. Then basically this area will be clear of all the mobs, with all the traps down, hopefully. And even if you have trouble keeping the traps down, if you stand here, I'm standing right now, either here on this pillar or here in the corner, you will not aggro any whelps and you will not get hit by any traps. So you can just sit here, drink, buff up, get ready, and then you start pulling some whelps, you clear the whelps, and then you do the same as you did before. You start pulling as many of these elites as you can over here, you kill them here, and then you start moving again. You start moving, clear the traps, and everywhere over here is again these little gap things where if you need mana, if you need to rest, if you need to summon someone who died or whatever, you can stand in there, relax, drink up, pull some whelps, kill some whelps whenever they respawn, and just take your time here. There's no rush once these elites are down. There's literally no way you can die here if you do not ninja pull the boss. So earlier you saw, by the way, that I took the right route in the other room, like the other side. That's because you can pull the mobs from up here if you're unlucky, if you go by the left side. So always take the right route so that you can't have that happen. Just makes your life much easier. So you've cleared all the elites, you have been putting down these traps, and then preferably this is the last safe corner where you don't aggro the boss. Everyone hugs this corner, you prepare, and I'll show you what you're gonna do then. So third boss is what you'll be doing after this. You can still have your rogue disarm this trap. And then these two traps, the rogues will probably aggro the boss if they try. So what you want to do is when you're ready, these are down, you can still pull these whelps so that this area is clear. And once that is done, you move with entire rate, the tanks up front, the rogues very quickly sprint here to disarm it, and the tank pulls aggro on the boss and pulls it in the corner. And then you start doing the mechanics of the boss. In the meantime, rogues need to make sure that these two traps stay down, because they are the ones that are going to hit the rate. Because your range DPS will be roughly here at the gate, your melee DPS will be roughly here, and your healers are there as well, of course. And the boss will be tanked in this corner. The main tank will tank him roughly here, so that you can fly against these curtain things without bugging shit out. And your off tank will be over here. So sort of in a triangle. So main tank here, off tank at the other side of the boss, melee DPS behind it. And the reason you want to do that is because this boss has a couple mechanics. The first one is that he does an AoE blast wave, which hits everyone in melee range with some decent fire damage. And he knocks back the main tank, reducing his aggro by I think 50%. And eventually the main tank, whenever he gets knocked back enough, is going to lose aggro to the off tank, because the off tank should be second in threat. So melee range DPS, you should never out DPS your main tank or off tank in terms of threat. Right, that's very important. Secondly, for the healers, the main tank will get a mortal strike on him. That's like an ability that does 5,000 to 6,000 damage to a tank in full protective gear. So that's roughly like 60 to 70% of the total health. And after that, their healing is reduced by 75%. So you need to mass overheal whoever's tanking the boss. And what you would want to do is also assign 1 or 2 healers to each off tank. And they won't be healing that off tank unless he takes damage, because you want your off tanks topped off on HP, so that if the tank swap happens, they don't instantly die to a mortal strike, because then they will switch to DPS and start causing havoc, so you want to prevent that. And as you can see, these traps respawn, so they need to be constantly destroyed by the rogues. And as you can also see, if you are here as arranged, you probably should stand at this edge here. You could potentially pull some of these whelps. And if that happens, everyone, including the melee, just needs to help and cleave them down and then start going back on the boss. This is not a DPS race. This is a race of taking it easy, not getting your tanks killed, and then just slowly knocking them down. We one-shot this as the only boss I first cleared. This is really the easiest boss in the raid, as long as you take your time and don't stress out here or rush too hard. So let me pull the boss. Show you the positioning again. Pull the boss. Obviously, the boss will just come running once you come around that corner, so you don't need to run all the way there. You pull him over here. Let's see if he doesn't knock back. Ooh, okay. Do not tank it next to the curtain, because if you get knocked on top of the curtain, the boss will bug and reset. So you probably want to tank it in this corner here. Then you get knocked back. You will keep aggro on you, don't worry. I've seen it happen. Like the main tank can usually take 1 or 2 knockbacks before he loses aggro to the off tank. And then if that happens, if the off tank takes aggro, you just swap places, right? The off tank goes to this area and then you stand behind him. Just make sure you keep it turned away from the melee, because he does a melee cleave. Yeah, you don't want that to happen. You don't want to go past the curtain, because that could go really bad. He also does the blast wave, which is the AoE damage, and there goes the mortal strike. It's only 50% here, but I'm pretty sure it's 75% on classic. And then just kill him. Alright. Check out the loot. Ooh, Maladef. Nice. Alright, see you in the next video, then we're gonna talk the trash and the next boss. Mr. Fireball.